Welcome to Easy Science International, and this is yet our 10th tutorial, and today we are going to be looking at the biochemistry of photosynthesis. Yes, we've moved from afar, and so far we've looked at the leaf as the major photosynthetic organ. We looked at its adaptations to trap sunlight and transport fluids, and then we went ahead and looked at the light energy, and we looked at the phenomenon like action spectrum, the absorption spectrum, where we went ahead and looked at the Engelmann's experiment on the action spectrum of chlorophyll A. And there we saw a number of things, and I remember I left this question about the color of this kind of light, which is infrared. A number of our viewers and subscribers, like Peter Linus, have tried it. Yes, somebody gave the color red, but this is pink, to harmonize on that. We thank our audience in the United States of America, my clanmate and dad, that is Waswa Peter, in Boston, Massachusetts, friends in Tanzania, like Evodius Rutamigwa, Kenya, like Abraham Dut, places like Saudi Arabia, we have Sharon, and many other friends and subscribers of Easy Science International, not forgetting Sandy Kombedu Success FM. Thanks for the support and the love. Today we want to go into another subtopic of autotrophic nutrition, and we want to dig deep into what we call the biochemistry of photosynthesis. You can ask yourself, what is meant by the term biochemistry? Now, biochemistry is the branch of science which is concerned with the chemical and physical-chemical processes and substances that occur within the living organisms. Now, basically, photosynthesis is a metabolic process. To be in particular, it is anabolic. Anabolic in the sense that it yields to building up of molecules, that is macromolecules, from smaller molecules. Another counterpart of anabolic processes is what we call catabolic process. Now, a catabolic process, for example respiration, for it to lead to breakdown of macromolecules into micro or small molecules, leading to release of energy. Now, today we want to dig deep into this anabolic process called photosynthesis, in particular its biochemistry. So, photosynthesis occurs in two stages. That is the light-dependent stage and the light-independent stage. Now, the light-independent stage occurs even if light is not present, and because of that, we also refer to it as the dark stage. So, our main emphasis today is number one, that is the light-dependent stage. So, we can ask ourselves, where in the leaf does this stage of photosynthesis occur? To answer that, the light-dependent stage occurs in the thylakoid membrane of the chloroplasts. So when you look at the chloroplast in cell biology, we go ahead and see some of these structures or membranes known as the thylakoid membranes. Now, it is on these membranes that we shall find this process occurring in the leaf. So basically, that is where the light-dependent stage of photosynthesis occurs. So another question we can ask here, why is it necessary for photosynthesis to pass through the light-dependent stage? In other words, what is the role of the light-dependent stage in the entire process of photosynthesis? I know a lot of answers are passing through your mind, but we shall harmonize on that. Simply, there are two roles of the light-dependent stage in the process of photosynthesis. And the first role is synthesis of hydrogen. Now, hydrogen, through the process of photolysis, that is photolysis of water. We know one of the raw materials for the process of photosynthesis is water. Why water? Let's answer this. Now, through the process of photolysis, photolysis, photo meaning light, and lysis, breakdown of water. So this is the light-dependent breakdown of water. So we split a molecule of water to give us 2 protons or hydrogen ions and 2 electrons and an atom of oxygen, which when they combine to form a molecule of oxygen. So 2 molecules of water will give you only 1 molecule of oxygen during this process of photolysis. So through photolysis, we are looking at light. It requires light to take place. We split a molecule of water to yield 2 protons and 2 electrons. Now, the 2 hydrogen ions formed are accepted by a molecule known as NADI. That is nicotinamide adenine diphosphate to form its reduced form. So hydrogen will reduce this molecule to form for us NADPH. So which is a reduced form of NADI. Now, this molecule carries the hydrogen to the other stage of photosynthesis, which is the light-independent stage or the dark stage. We shall look at its relevancy or significance in that stage. So you see, we are preparing for the dark stage, but in the light stage. So that's one of the significance of the light stage or the role of the light stage. Now, the 2 electrons which are formed are transferred to the electron transport system in the chlorophyll. We shall look at that in our next tutorial, where we shall be looking at another interesting process. Then oxygen released is given off as a byproduct. So we've seen so far the first significance of or role of the light dependent stage is to synthesize for us hydrogen. Where do we get it? From a single molecule of water we yield 2 electrons. Sorry, we yield just 2 electrons and 2 protons, or 2 hydrogen ions, which are then accepted by NADP by reducing it to form NADPH. Then the 2 electrons are also accepted they are transferred to the chlorophyll molecule through the electron transport system. We shall look at that also. The second law of the process, the second role of the light dependent stage is to synthesize ATP in a process called photophosphorylation. Synthesis of ATP in a process or through a process called photophosphorylation. Now, ATP in full is adenosine triphosphate. Now, through a process called whenever you see photo, meaning there is light, light, phosphorylation, you are adding phosphorus. Actually you're adding a molecule of phosphorus to another molecule. Now, as opposed to the other process which occurs in respiration, which is called oxidative phosphorylation, in photosynthesis, we can also form ATP. This we didn't look at in our O level, but we see that there is formation of ATP in the process of photosynthesis through a process called photophosphorylation. How does it occur? We add one molecule of inorganic phosphate to another molecule of adenosine diphosphate, di meaning 2. So when you add another one to these diphosphates, you will be having 3. Hence you yield adenosine triphosphate, which is ATP, and this is the universal energy currency. So we see whatever we've made in the light dependent stage, we shall see its significance in the dark stage. ATP is used in certain processes we shall look at in the dark stage. So far, and basically those are the 2 roles of the light dependent stage. 1, synthesis of hydrogen, and 2, synthesis of ATP. So in advanced level, they always ask you to define. So somebody, or in your exam, you might face a question which asks you to define the term photophosphorylation. So when you are to define, you give us the definition and go ahead and give us some relevant information about the definition. Simply, photophosphorylation is the light dependent synthesis of ATP from adenosine diphosphate and inorganic phosphate. Adenosine diphosphate and inorganic phosphate. So you synthesize ATP in the presence of light from these 2 molecules. That is photophosphorylation. So you go ahead and tell us, where does it occur? It occurs where the light dependent stage occurs. So it occurs in the thylakoid membrane in the core of the chloroplast. You see, again, don't leave this equation behind. You show us well that equation. You would have answered that question. It is a very common question in biology paper 530/2 and 1. Very common. So go ahead and practice on how to write that. That is what we've looked at today. We've looked at the stages under which photosynthesis occurs, which are 2. We have the light dependent stage and the light independent stage. We've gone ahead to dissect the light dependent stage, where we've seen that it occurs on the thylakoid membranes of the chloroplast, and the 2 roles it plays in the process of photosynthesis as synthesis of hydrogen and synthesis of ATP through a process called photophosphorylation. Now, in our next tutorial, we are going to look at the process of photophosphorylation. This is just a definition and its equation. How does ADP and inorganic phosphate combine to form ATP? Now, we want to dig deep into this process. Catch us in our next tutorial and try to look for some of the answers or look for this process. Google process of photophosphorylation. Try to know something before we meet in our next tutorial. Thank you very much for listening. Always endeavor to jot something on your paper. Sarah Ivan is my name.